So, welcome everyone to the basics of JavaScript. I would like to introduce our speaker, Saksham Jain. He is a second year engineering student. He is IoT, tech enthusiast, and a web developer, who is proficient in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And you can also check her LinkedIn profile. I will share his LinkedIn profile in the chat box soon. So, whether you're a student, a recent graduate, or a professional looking to enhance your skill, this masterclass chair is designed for you. We will cover a wide range of basics of JavaScript and hands-on session to understand the JavaScript for better outcomes. In the basics of JavaScript, you will learn about introduction to JavaScript, history of JavaScript, variables and data types in JavaScript, control statements and loops in JavaScript, functions in JavaScript, and arrays and strings in JavaScript. And then the speaker will also like to introduce about his final review project entries and JavaScript video app. Now it's over to speaker. I would like to call our speaker, Saksham Jain, to start the session. Thank you.
Hello everyone, am I audible?
Yes, Saksham, you are audible.
So hello everyone, I am Saksham Jain, a second year BTech student at AUMP, Amity University, Madhya Pradesh. So today I am here to tell you about JavaScript, teach basics of JavaScript, and I will also tell you where to go from here. So let's get started with some introduction. Pearl, is the screen visible?
Yes, it's visible.
So let's start. We will cover all these topics in today's session. We will first start with introduction to JavaScript. JavaScript is a lightweight cross-platform, dynamically typed and interpreted compiled programming language. JavaScript can be used for both client-side and server-side developments. For client-side developments, we pass objects from the browser to JavaScript and handle events, making the web pages more dynamic and interactive to the users. For client side, we provide JavaScript to the database connectivity and continue the front end and back end linking part. So let's move to the history of JavaScript because it is important to know the history of a language before learning it. So the developer of JavaScript was Brendan Eich. It was developed in 10 days in May 1995. The language was first known as Mocha, then it was modified to LiveScript, and then we got the name JavaScript. And then we got the name JavaScript. And then we got the name as JavaScript. JavaScript was initially implemented for the best browser of that time, Netscape Navigator. The language was then adopted by Microsoft to use in Internet Explorer, and then it gained the popularity so fast that every web developer is now using JavaScript for both client side and server side interactions. The first iteration was JavaScript was not even called JavaScript, it was called as Mocha. It was created as a high level programming language for designers and non programmers both. Designers can also use JavaScript, and people who are not more proficient in JavaScript, they can use it for front end development. Now let's go for why we use JavaScript in the web pages. Imagine that you have a web page in which you cannot even interact with it. You have a static page in which you can only read the content. Now, on the other hand, you have a website on which you can interact on daily basis and use that web app to improve your productivity or do something useful. Which one would you prefer? You can turn on your mic and tell me, or you can tell in the chat section. So, according to me, everybody would prefer a website on which they can use on daily basis. So initially, JavaScript was created for client-side scripting, but with the power of its frameworks, now we can create a complete web app with JavaScript. React.js, Node.js, Next.js, AngularJS are some commonly used frameworks. Fantastic websites can be created using these frameworks. Combiningly, these are called MERN stack or mean stack. MERN is MongoDB, MERN is MongoDB, Express, React, and JavaScript. MongoDB is a database. Express.js, React.js, and Node.js are frameworks. And in mean stack, we replace the React.js with AngularJS. There is also a popular framework. There is also a very popular framework known as Next.js, which is also used for creating multiple web apps. Now we will go to the practical implementation of JavaScript, how to run JavaScript. Every programming language needs a compiler to compile and execute the code. JavaScript does not need any compiler. It runs directly on browser. If you have a browser, you already has a JavaScript compiler. JavaScript can also run on terminal, but it needs a runtime environment. Node.js is a library which provides runtime environment to execute JavaScript outside of the browser or on the server to do some processing and give the output. Now we will go to our first step of practical implementation, how to print hello world in JavaScript. When we start learning any programming language, we first print hello world. So let's start. I'll go to my Edge browser. You can use any browser. So let me open that. Yeah. So I am on a web page. This is the Edge starting page. I can right click and go to inspect. Yeah. So if you have developed some websites using HTML or CSS, or if you're familiar with some web development, you have learned about console or the developer console. Here we can see all the HTML elements. This is the JavaScript console. When we learn every programming language, we print into terminal. This is the terminal for JavaScript. So when I will to print hello world or to print something, we write console dot log. Now I will pass something in this hello. Let me listen. Console.log hello world. As you can see that it has printed hello world here, or I can do console.log. I have got the string which I passed in the console.log. Now let's move to the next steps. How to use JavaScript in web pages. We have used JavaScript in this web page for this web page. Now we learn how to use JavaScript for our websites. To use JavaScript, to link JavaScript in our web pages, we have three methods. We have external JavaScript, internal JavaScript, and inline JavaScript. So let's go. Firstly, we will start with external JavaScript. External JavaScript is a separate HTML file and JavaScript file. We link the separate JavaScript file to our HTML file using script tag. So now let's start our first practical implementation for web development here. So I will open my VS Code, Visual Studio Code. I will create two files, index.html and one more, script.js. For JavaScript file, you have the file extension as script.js. The file extension is .js, and the name of JavaScript can be anything, but generally, conventionally, we prefer script.js. Now I have created two files. I will put the HTML boilerplate. I have got the HTML boilerplate here. We put JavaScript generally inside the HTML below the body tag. So I will write script src. Script tag defines that we are using JavaScript, and the src defines the source of the JavaScript file. I will write this is my JavaScript source. So now I have included my JavaScript into my web page. This is my web page. I will change the title. So let's start. As I printed console.log, as I printed hello world, again I will print something, and that will be printed in our web page. So I am printing console hello world in our console. I am using VS Code's live server extension. Yeah. So this is our web page. This is empty now. Let me add some body for the web page. Yeah. So we have got this body. Now I'll go to inspect. As you can see that wrote JavaScript, when I wrote console.log in JavaScript, it printed hello world in the console. If I'll change this, he'll get this. Now let's move further in our JavaScript part. We have internal JavaScript. We can write the JavaScript in in the HTML file as well. Let me comment this out also. So I'll write the JavaScript inside the HTML file itself. So I can write console.log. Let's give this. When I'll go to my browser, I will get this printed. The next thing is inline JavaScript. Inline JavaScript is applied inside the, you say, element itself. I can apply this here. Please ignore this on click. On click defines when I will click this H1, what will happen. So let me write console. Let me comment this out. The script part which we have written inside this. Yeah. So whenever I will click this H1 element, I will get console. I will get hello world printed here. JavaScript console has a speciality that if you print the same thing multiple times, it will not print in multiple lines. It will show the number of counts you have printed. Now, as we are in a session, we are starting our practical implementation. So you can also do a practical implementation side by side with me in the JavaScript online compiler. Or if you have JavaScript or live server installed on your PC, you can also do that. So you can go inside this compiler and execute JavaScript. Like they have written console.log welcome to programmers. We zoom this. Yeah. So whenever I'll run, it will print into the terminal. Welcome to programmers. So let's move further. If you guys have any doubt, you can ask in the chat section. I'll be replying to your doubt as soon as possible. So in every programming language, we have to store data. So we have variables to store data. Variables are containers in which we store our data temporarily in our program. For permanent storage, we use our database for to store data for permanently. Declaring variables in JavaScript is not a tough part. We use let and const to declare variables in JavaScript. Let is used to declare variables which can be changed later. Const is used to declare constant variables. These variables cannot be changed once initialized. Var is not used in modern browser after ES6 JavaScript. JavaScript has released this ES6 version because of a problem that is hoisting. If possible, we will discuss this later, or you can study it on your own because this is a practical session and it is a theoretical concept. With let and const, you cannot redeclare a variable once declared. Let's practically do this. Yeah. So for this session, I'll be using my script.js file. Let me remove this, what we have written. So I have included this script.js file. I will declare variables let n is equals to 5. 5 is stored inside n. Now whenever I will print 5, whenever I will print n, I will get the value of n. So yeah, we have got 5 here. Let me close this. Yeah. So we have got 5 here. Let's see if we can redeclare this n. Let n equals to. So it is showing me error. Cannot redeclare block scope variable n. Or we can see in the console that it will show error. Syntax error. Identifier n has already been declared. So let's go. Now I'll declare this with const n equals to 5, and I'll print 5. I'll get 5 in the console. But whenever I'll reinitialize it, like n equals to 10, it is not possible with const. Yeah. Type error assignment to constant variable. Const stands for constant. If I declare this with let, I have got 10 without any error. So let's move further. Naming variables in JavaScript. These are the rules which are followed while naming variables in JavaScript. JavaScript variables are case sensitive as in every programming language. So I want to ask you that why JavaScript is written like this, not like this. We have its S capital. So can anyone tell me from this side? As we are making this session interactive, if you can reply on the chats, you should reply. So JavaScript follows a naming convention known as camel casing. In camel casing, we start with a lowercase alphabet and go to uppercase. The mid letters are uppercase. As this JavaScript is written in camel casing, you can all see. So let's go. Data types in JavaScript. JavaScript is a dynamically typed language, so we don't have to specify data type for the variable. If I store n into 5, 5 into n, I can also store any string in 5. I don't have to specify the data type before while declaring the variable. As in some programming languages like C, C++, we have to write int n and we can only store integer in this. So if we print n is 5, we will print n and we will also print the type of n. Type of is a JavaScript operator which tells the type of any value. And when I store the string in n, let's do this for this. Now let's go. So first I printed 5. It is a type number. Then I printed hello. It is of type string. You can see that The variable has changed its type itself as per the requirements. So JavaScript has two types of variables, code data types, primitive data types and non-primitive data types. Primitive data types are string, number, begin, boolean, undefined, null, symbol, and object. Non-primitive data types are an object and an array. So what is the scope of variables in JavaScript? JavaScript has three scopes: block scope that can be printed in a, you say, block; function scope. These variables can be accessed only in a particular function. Global scope. These variables can be accessed in whole code. So I have these two code snippets. One is declared with var and second is declared with let. So let's check what happens in these. So firstly we will start with var1, where n is equals to 100, 200. We'll print n. We will print the variable and we will go inside a block. We will redeclare this variable and we'll print it again. Now we'll go inside a block. Now we are inside this block. As you can see, I am printing first n. Then we will go inside the block, change this variable, and then print it, and then print the same variable outside the block if to see if it has changed. Let's go. Yeah, nothing is printed. Sorry, I forgot to say. Firstly, the variable was 200, then it became 20, and then it remained 20. Here it is 200. This line changed the variable to 20, and then it remained 20. So what is the problem? This n is same as the above n. It is redeclared, but these two variables are same. This is also a problem why we don't use var while declaring variable. Let's replace this with let, and again let. So let's check for let. We have 200. Inside the block, it changed the variable to 220, and then we are getting value of 200 again. And we also discussed later. We also discussed that we cannot redeclare the variables used with n, let. So this n is not same as this n. These two variables have same names, but these variables are different. As you can see that when I am selecting this n, it is highlighting this, and this. But when I am selecting this is highlighting only this n. Because let and const are block scoped variables. These have scopes only in block. Function scope we'll discuss later while discussing functions. Global scope, we can access the global variables inside any block of code. Now we will discuss operators in JavaScript. We have to perform operations in any programming language. Each programming language has a set of operations. We have addition operator, subtraction operator, multiplication operator. The exponentiation operator was added in ES 2016. JavaScript has versions like ES2, ES4, ES5, ES6. The latest is ES6. ES stands for ECMAScript. ECMAScript is an organization which standardizes the JavaScript. So we have division, modulus, increment, and decrement. Now we have assignment operators equals to, plus equals to, minus equals to, multiply equals to, and exponentiation equals to. You must be familiar with these operators if you are familiar with programming. We have comparison operators equals to, double equals to. JavaScript has this special operators triple equals to. It compares the variable's value as well as type. If I get this, we have a variable n whose value is 200. Now we'll have a variable I whose value is also 200, but it is a string. Let's compare these. Whenever I'll compare, the comparison operator returns true or false. So I'll compare n equals to I. Let's check what we get. This is true because the value in both the variables is same. But when I'll give triple equals to, that is strict equality, I'll get false because the double equals to only compares the value inside the variable, not the data type. But the triple equals to compares the values as well as the data types. If they are not the same data type, it will return false. So let's move further. The not double equals to is opposite of triple equals to, and not equals to is opposite of double equals to. Now we will get to know about operators in JavaScript. For logical operators, operators are comparison operators, but they perform logical comparisons like and, or, and not. The and operator returns true if both conditions are true. This is the basic of programming. If you know that, we cannot compare this in console.log. We'll have to use if and else for these logical operators. Now we'll go into loops in JavaScript. What are loops? Loops are used to do repetitive work in any programming language. If we are doing repetitive work by ourselves, it would be a tedious task. So we automate the repetitive work using the loop. We have following types of loops: for loop, while loop, for in loop, for off loop, and one more I have not mentioned here is do while loop. So the for loop syntax is same if you have studied C++, it is same like that. For we initialize a variable, we check a condition, and we give a afterthought that we have to increment a variable or decrement or multiply with something, and we have code statement. Let's execute this. If I want to print n natural numbers or first 10 natural numbers, I can print like console but log 1, 2, 3, like this. I have to print. If I want to print 100, I'll have to do this for 100. But I can automate this using a loop. For I'll initialize a variable I equals to 1, I less than equal to 10, I plus plus. Then I'll print I. So let's go to our console and check. We have got the first 10 natural numbers. If I want their sum, we can initialize a global sum variable. We can add each and every I in that equal to sum plus 1, and then I'll print the sum. Oh, sorry, sum plus I. Now I have got the sum of first 10 natural numbers. I can do this for 100 in a while. Like this, I have changed the number of conditions to 100. I have got the sum for first 100 natural numbers, and I have got them printed also here in our console. This is the example. Now while loop. While loop is a loop in which we check a condition, increment a variable, but we have to initialize it outside the loop like this. If we want to print n natural numbers, we have to initialize the iteration variable as 1. We'll go inside while. We'll check if the condition is true or false, I less than 10. It will print, then it will increment I by 1. We'll again check, and it will do this as 100 at 10 as 10 times. I can change this to 100 also. It will do this 100 times. For in and for off loop we'll discuss in the array part because they are mostly used in arrays. So we have now conditional statements in JavaScript. Conditional statements are used to control the flow of execution of program. There are following types of conditional statements. Like in every programming language, we have if, else, else if, and switch case. Like we can do it's practical. Let n equals to 100 if n less than 100. We can print I, else we can print hello. So we have got hello here because we are checking for condition if n is less than 100, but n is equal to 100, then it will execute the else part. If we write if n is less than equal to 100, we'll get high. Or we can do something else like else if n equals to 100, high. If n is less than 100, we will get high. If n is equal to 100, we'll get by, and else we'll print hello. So we have got by here. If I change the value of n to 10, I'll get high printed here. So that was all about conditional statements. Now we'll move further towards functions in JavaScript. Functions are also used to define a block of code that we can call anytime whenever we need that block of code to be executed. The JavaScript function has the following syntax like function keyword is used, then the name of function. We can pass parameters into the function and code to be executed. Now, if I write a function, print something, and I take a parameter inside this string, or we can take name. Now I'll start the block of the function and I'll print the name. I can call it multiple times for every different parameter. Like I can call print something, my name. I can call it for hello. I have got my name and hello. I have called this function. In JavaScript, we can declare a function afterwards, but we can call it before the declaration. It is working fine. I have declared the function below the usage. So let's discuss something more efficient in JavaScript, that is arrow function. Arrow function was introduced in ES6. It is a much shorter syntax to write a function. If I want to return some value to this function, like if I change this, I can pass any number and I can return that number. So if I want to get that number, or if I want to return a value to a variable, what I'll do is let x equals to what I'll return. I will call this print something function. I'll pass my name. I'll pass name and a number 10. Now I'll print the x, which will be returned by the function. I have got 10 here. So by this, we can also use this with arrow function. What would be the advantage of arrow function is I can define a function like let print something equals to I can pass parameters here and I can make a arrow. Arrow is made with equals to and a greater than operator. It is looking like an arrow. Now we can start the function body like this and we can do same thing, return the number. The calling is same, the printing is same, but we have changed the syntax of the function. We cannot access the arrow function. Yeah. We cannot access the arrow function before its declaration. The arrow function is more efficient in the case of anonymous functions. We will declare that later. We will discuss that later. So let's move further. We have an example Like we have a function which returns sum of two variables which are passed inside the function. In the traditional function declaration, I'll have to write a function keyword, the name of function, parameters passed, and return a plus b. But if we have a single statement arrow function, we don't have to write return. It would return the result of first statement automatically to the sum variable. As you can see that syntax of function is shortened with the arrow function. Arrow function might be confusing to many people, but it is an efficient way to write functions. Advantages of arrow function over normal function declaration is that they reduce the size of code. The return statement is optional. We don't have to write the return keyword for single line functions. It increases the readability of code. Now we'll move to the most important part in JavaScript, that is arrays in JavaScript. So I'm taking a 2 minutes. If someone has any doubt, they can ask. So now let's move towards arrays in JavaScript. If you have any doubt, you can ask in the chats. So let's move forward. Yeah. So arrays can store multiple values at the same time. It is not strict that we store the same type values. We can store different types of values in an array at the same time. Array is declared like the declaration given in the example. We have the array name and the array contents separated by a comma inside the square brackets. Array elements can be accessed by using their indexes. Like this is the zeroth index. The second element has the first index. If I access the zeroth index, I'll get 1 from this array. We have array methods in JavaScript: length, toString, and join. Let's do a practical implementation. I'll declare an array. This is my array. Now I'll print. I have got the length of my array as 9, as we have 9 elements in this array. So what is the function of, so let's move to toString function. It converts an array into a string. So let str is my string, str dot toString, and I'll print the string. I have got this string. Let's check the type of this str. You can check it here itself. As you can see, it is a string. Now we'll move to join function. What join does is it creates a string by joining each an element by a separator. So I'll write it here itself, join, and I'll provide the separator. as underscore. We'll get the array elements separated by an underscore. Now let's move to other. We have pop. It takes out the last element of an array. We have push. It inserts an element at the end of an array. If I'll print arr.pop, I have got 9. 9 is now removed from the array. If we print our array, we have got the array till 8 and 9 is popped out. We can push an element to an array. Push. If I push 10 in this array, we'll get the array length as 10 and 10 is inserted at the last of this array. Shift and unshift do the same work as push and pop, but shift takes out the first element of an array and unshift inserts an element at the first index of an array and shift the elements towards right. If I unshift 0 in this array, I'll get a 0 inserted at first index of this array. And if I shift this array, 1 is removed. Element at first index is removed. Let's move. We have arr.concat. It concatenates two arrays. If I make it arr2 and change the variables like 30, 20, I'll return in arr3 as arr.concat arr2 and we'll print the third array. It is made by concatenating the last two arrays like this. We have our first array and the second array combined into a single array. Looping techniques in array. JavaScript has some special functions to loop through the arrays or traverse through the arrays. The for each function takes a function, iterates through each and every element, and applies the function for each and every element in the array. Just like firstly, I'll have to declare a function print. I'll have to pass three variables, three parameters like item, index, and the third is array. I'll print. Now I'll do a for each. Now I'll run a for each loop on the array. arr.forEach, and I'll call the function print inside this. Now, whenever I am calling the print function inside the array, I'll not give parenthesis here. Oh, sorry. I have printed items. I'll have to print item in this. Yeah, so I have got each and every item printed. So what the for each does, it passes the item of the array on which it is working in in the first parameter. It passes the index of that item into second parameter, and it passes the complete array into the third parameter. If I print the array, I'll be getting the array printed number of times the for each runs. I can declare this function anonymously into the for each loop like this. This is the for each. Now I'll run. I'll declare a function. I'll pass three parameters. In anonymous functions, we don't have to give names to the function. I'll give the arrow and do the same as the print function is doing. This. I am getting the same thing. So what is the use of, why should we declare the function inside the for each, not outside? So can anyone tell me here? So whenever we declare any function inside the for each loop, it is declared only for each loop. We cannot use it anywhere else. If we declare it outside the loop, we can use it anywhere. Now we'll move towards the looping techniques, which is map. Map creates a new array, iterating each and every element of previous array. Iterating each and every elements of the previous array. We have filter. Filter filters and filters the elements of an array on the basis of some condition, and reduces an array to a single value. Let's have a particular implementation of each one. If I take a new array, I can map this array using the map function, arr.map. I can define a function inside this. You can name each and every parameter of the function by yourself. What it will do is, it will take each item from the ARR array and multiply by 2 and return and append this to the new array. Let's print the new array. As we have got, why we have got undefined is we have not returned the items. We'll have to return the items in this array. I have got each and every element of the previous array multiplied by 2 into this new array. If we want to create a new array from previous array, we can use the map function. What filter does is it takes the same three parameters, but it returns by checking a condition. Let's take out even numbers from this array to the new ARR. We'll use, we'll check the condition like item modulus 2. If the item is completely divisible by 2, it is even, and if it passes the condition, it will be pushed to the new array. Yeah, so we have got the even numbers from the previous array to the new array. Now we'll go to reduce. Reduce reduces the whole array to a single value. The value to be returned, we'll pass it here. Now what we'll do is we'll add each value to the value to be returned, and reduce will reduce the value to a reduced whole array into a single value by performing this function. Oh, sorry, I'll have to type item here. It will add all the items of the array. We have got 36. 36 is the sum of all items of this array. It is taking each and every item, adding it to the total, and after completion, it returns the total to the sum value. I hope everyone has understood. Now we have for off and for in loop. These are not important loops. We iterate each and every element of an array through these loops. Now we have JavaScript document object model. The document object model takes HTML elements from the HTML file. We have root element. Root element has a head and body. Body has some elements and head also has some elements. We can take these elements out of the JavaScript and apply our conditions like handling events. Now we can manipulate the elements inside the DOM. This is the main part of JavaScript, which is used in modifying or manipulating web pages. Get element, we have some functions for the document object. Document is the object which refers to our HTML file. We can get the element by its tag name. We can get it by ID. We can get it by class. We can get it using query selector and query selector all. We have one heading. We'll add some headings. We have three headings now. We can get these headings by the tag name h1. So, and we can store it into any element. I'll write document dot get elements by tag name. And what is the tag name? I have to pass it as a string h1. So let's print what we have got. Console.log element. I have got an HTML collection. HTML collection is the collection of all the elements. If I take the first H1, I have all these properties which I can use, or all these methods which I can use to manipulate this element. We can create an array of all the elements. Have a function array.from which creates an array through a sequence. We have got array of all the elements which we took out from the HTML file. Now as we have got the array, we can use a for each loop in this. I can pass the item. It is optional to pass the number of parameters is optional to pass in the for each loop. I'll only pass the item, and what I'll do is I'll change the color of these items to red. Oh, sorry, I'll have to type item. As you can see, I have changed the color of each heading using JavaScript. We can get these items by class name also. The query selector gives the items using the CSS queries. If I add a class heading, I add a class head in this, and I take the element by using query selector. Now I'll have to type the query which I'll use to represent this element in the CSS file like this. And now I can change its first. I can change its style. The style represents the CSS, and you can use any CSS property in this and pass a string to the value as the value of the CSS property. Sorry, I think there is a bug. Let's check. Oh, there is a typing error in the CSS HTML file. Yeah, so as I have got this element and changes its color to red, we can change the style, inner HTML, and the class list of any element using the document object model. So as the time is running out, this was from my side as JavaScript. You guys can tell me if you have any doubt regarding JavaScript. So as I forward to Pearl for ending the session, thank you everyone for joining.
With this, we come to the end of today's session. Thank you so much, Saksham, for joining us today and sharing your insights with us. Thank you so much, everyone in the audience, for tuning in for the session today. Please check out the social media pages for the communities and join our WhatsApp and Discord server to stay up to date with the latest updates about the health. Have a great day, everyone, and thank you so much for joining.